Hello, sugarless Amazons around the globe. Welcome to the third episode. This time you're flying to Sweden. I'm going to introduce you a wonderful lady. Her name is Bitten Jonsson. She's the world expert on sugar addiction, in general food addiction. So quickly, grab a cup of egg milk and join me. Let's see what pearls Bitten will share with us. Hello, Sweden. How are you today? And thank you so much for joining Sugarless Amazons. You definitely are one of us.
Thank you for having me. And I'm doing great. I've just spent an hour out in the woods along a lake with my sister and her dog and my dog. So we have had the most wonderful walk today. And, I thought we had a little chat about food. I am a very fortunate person growing up on pretty much real food before all the junk food hits us. But also my sister provides me with meat from the farm, eggs from the farm, and milk products from the farm. So I'm a lucky girl.
So European way of doing low carb, we are very much connected to tradition. Every European country has a typical tradition, but when we look at each of them from north to south, they might be different because of availability of ingredients and different climate. But definitely we all come to one source where in our tradition is to eat fish, meat, dairy, eggs. It's like always festive food made with these ingredients throughout the history. So I would like to ask you, if it's not a problem, to tell us a little bit about you growing up in Sweden, typical meals that your family was eating, and when you realized that something's wrong, that you are over consuming sugar, how it went.
Well, I grew up as the oldest of seven, and my mother was a stay-at-home mom, and she did a beautiful job with us, but she both everything clean, the meat and the fish and all that, and she cooked from that, and we ate some root vegetables, starchy vegetables. We had that, like potatoes and carrots and all that, but not so much fresh veggies, because they didn't grow here. So that was not something we ate. But we weren't afraid of salt. We weren't afraid of butter. We were out playing in the sun. And I joke and say, I'm an oppositor. They warned us for red meat, salt, sun, butter. So that's what I do. I do the opposite. Okay. But that's how I grew up. But also as a child, I loved sugar lumps, those little sugar cubes that all the Swedes had in their coffee. But we didn't have, like buns and cookies and all that, only on Christmas and Easter, maybe.
Maybe and also for midsummer.
Yeah, oh yeah, midsummer we did. But midsummer was actually, a lot of fish, pickled herring, cured salmon, eggs. It was a lot of the stuff we ate at that time. And then a special kind of cheesecake they only make up here. My sister makes it. It's like a halloumi, so there's no sugar in it.
Interesting.
It's like a thick, and you fry it in butter or heat it in cream, and then you have some berries on top of it and some cream. So it's pretty healthy dessert anyway. So that's what we ate. But anyway, I loved and sodas. We never had sodas. We never got to have that. My parents didn't allow it. So we had more like fruit juice or something like. They thought that we know that's a lot of sugar now, but at that time they didn't think. But at least it didn't have all the colorings and all the junk in it or caffeine and stuff. So I think I had half a Coca-Cola when I was 15. It's the first time I tasted Coca-Cola, and I never liked soda, so that was never part of my drug food. But I love chocolate, and I had an aunt working in a bakery, so she used to come with chocolate to us, and I know I love that. So chocolate and ice cream was my drug. But during my child and teenage year, I got it very rarely because we couldn't afford it, and it wasn't very available, and there was nothing of all that other junk food candy that you have today. So that's how I grew up. But I knew that if I got my hand on chocolate and ice cream, I would gorge on that. I loved it. But anyway, in my teenage year, we started dieting. And the funny thing is, when I look back at pictures, I wasn't overweight. It was like a fad. All the girls should diet. And then, of course, we did these stupid things where we starved ourselves during the week. And then, of course, Friday, we'd binge on chocolate milk and sandwiches. That's what we did. Crazy, crazy living. I remember my mom thought it was absolutely nuts us doing that, but it was like a fad. But actually, my problem was more prevalent when I came to nursing school of all the schools in the world. We started really dieting then, and drinking coffee and drinking alcohol and smoking. And, here is where things started to go wrong, because we started smoking to lose weight, to lessen our appetite, nothing else. It wasn't because it was in the culture or modern or fancy. We used it as an appetite suppressor. So, but I was hooked on nicotine right away. Today, I know if you're hooked on one drug, let's say sugar, and you add another drug like nicotine, you have a much higher chance to become addicted to that one. And there is studies showing that if you are addicted to nicotine and you start drinking alcohol, you have 9 times higher risk to be addicted to alcohol than if you're not smoking. It's actually more like when I came to nursing school, the crazy dieting started. And when you start dieting, you gain weight. That's absolutely for sure. So at one time I went to Weight Watchers, and the first 2 weeks I gained 4 kilos because, because I almost, played havoc with my metabolism, starving, binging, and that type of thing, because I couldn't resist chocolate and ice cream. So if I started to have one bite, I just thought, oh, the heck with my diet. I'm going to eat all I can right now. And then I start on Monday or after vacation or in January, and, that crazy thinking, which we today call addictive thinking, it's a delusion. So that was my growing up. So when I was 19, I was addicted to sugar, nicotine, and alcohol. But I didn't have a lot of consequences because I was pretty healthy in all other areas. I was doing very well in nursing school, and I started working. And in the beginning, you can plan when you get drunk. So I never had problem with work or, doing crazy things or, driving under the influence and stuff like that. So, but when I was drinking, I really drank. And then I married an American. And Americans know more about addiction than Swedes do, because we think it is some kind of emotional, psychosocial, blah, blah, blah. Woo, what I call it. We don't understand it's an illness. But he did. So he forced me into treatment for my alcoholism when I was 33. And so that is 36 years ago now. It was in September. I celebrated my 36th anniversary being a recovering alcoholic.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very grateful for that. But anyway, when I had been sober for 7 years, I fell in love with addiction medicine during my own treatment, 1985. That's when I started studying. I wanted to understand everything because I was very angry with Sweden not knowing all these things that I got to know about dopamine and reward center and, everything. And I thought, Sweden was like flat earth country, they knew nothing. Oh, yeah. No, it's not an illness and blah, blah. But anyway, so I started studying all I could. And I moved back to Sweden in 88 because I wanted to really improve things here in Sweden and work here. And I wanted back to my family, my mom and my siblings and so. So my husband followed me, but we divorced later, but that's another story. But anyway, and, there wasn't a lot of places to work at. But 1992, I'd been sober for 7 years. I went to a lecture with Terence Gorski, who became my mentor. He is sadly not among us anymore in this world. But he taught me about relapse prevention and all the things around relapse. And he said, if a recovering alcoholic and drug addict keeps smoking, drinking a lot of coffee and eating junk food, they have a much higher risk of relapsing in alcohol and drugs. And as a nurse, I thought, wait a minute, how is that connected? I knew there was something there. So he told me about the biochemistry in the brain and how these drugs increased craving for other drugs. You know, one drug increases craving for another one. That's very important to understand. So I decided to quit smoking. I didn't quit coffee, but I really minimized. Maybe I was drinking 5 cups of coffee before, and then I went down to 1.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, oh, but I don't eat junk food. You know, I thought junk food was McDonald's only.
Mm.
To me, that was junk food, soda and hamburgers. So I didn't like that, never liked that. I've never been a bread lover or pasta or that type of thing. I don't like flour, gooky stuff. So I wasn't too keen on that. But anyway, so I quit smoking 1992 in the fall. And that's when my sugar addiction became so obvious. You know, I could eat chocolate day and night. And then I thought, but I'm being so good, quitting smoking, I can have some chocolate, right? Sure, babe. You know, chocolate and ice cream, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, sort of. And I became very sick. I was extremely fatigued and had fuzzy brain and pain in my body, and I felt miserable. So I thought, you know, maybe I've been bit by a tick. I was sort of hoping that, but deep down, I knew that I was doing with you know, ice cream and chocolate. I was doing exactly what I have done with the alcohol. I was hiding, lying, sneaking, and, you know, trying to hide how much I ate and when I ate and all that. So it was the addictive pattern, right?
Definitely.
So because of me knowing about alcoholism and my history back then, I knew deep inside, I really knew what was going on. So I happened to say to this American lady I worked with at the treatment center here in Sweden, she was here training us, and I said, it's strange. I could quit alcohol, I could quit nicotine. How come I can't quit sugar and ice cream and chocolate? And she looked at me and she said, you might be a food addict. And I about fell backwards. I never heard the terminology before. This was 1993. As a food addict, what's that? No, I don't want any more addictions, I said to her. But you know, that word stuck in my mind. And then it was even more obvious, you know, to me that I was eating addictively, as we say. So I got the chance to go to US in Chicago in 1993 in October. And that's when my recovery in this field started. I've had many, as I call them, beautiful relapses during the journey. That's 28 years now. And they have taught me more about how devious this illness is than, you know, most of what I've read, because I got help to look at my relapses and learn from them what I did wrong, what I should take away doing, and what I should add doing. So they were beautiful, as I call them. Sounds crazy, but anyway. And that's how it was. And then when I came home, I started to telling people about my experience, because that's what you do when you're recovering and you're, you know, working your program. You have no shame anymore. So just tell, this is what I do. This is how I think. I'm an addict. I'm a food addict. And people looked at me like I was saying, you know, I came from Mars or I was an alien or something. They never heard that word in Sweden. So anyway, but, you know, then people started calling me and saying, could you help me? I see myself as a foodaholic, food alcoholic, they call themselves all kinds of names. So I said, oh, shoot, I better learning a lot about this. So I started studying that. And later I came into functional medicine and orthomolecular medicine, where, you know, you work with the cause, not only the consequences. So I'm have a lot of gratitude to those people that I met along the way that taught me about that world. And so I started combining a lot of these ideas, you know, from, you know, traditional medicine, the addiction medicine, neuroscience world, and the functional medicine, orthomolecular medicine. And you asked me in the paper, what is holistic medicine?
Yeah, this is a very interesting subject that I want to
yes,
because I spoke to Dr. Wrigley, and my husband had a video in Greek. He actually tried to explain, And I really love this part, that if you don't try naturally, the way they did it in the ancient times, the ancient physicians, if you don't try this first, how you will know that it doesn't work? Because it has least side effects.
Yes. And you know, the definition of orthomolecular medicine is actually healing the body with the smallest ingredients and the natural ingredients. So, you know, holistic medicine is first of all looking at all the areas of a human, that's physical, psychological, socially, and spiritually, exactly, which is very important. All four. I used to talk about the chair. You know, you only have 3 legs on the chair, it's a little bit wobbly. Or if you use only 1 leg, that's you how do you sit in that? Or 2, it has to be 4 to be stable, right? And those are the 4 areas that we humans thrive in, and we should have tools in all areas. So that's how I started to work many years ago when I learned about functional medicine. Mm-hmm. And I understood the definition of orthomolecular medicine, that you always start, you know, with that. And another thing, you mentioned pets, and I love that. Thank you for that. I used to joke and say, I think I'd rather take myself to a veterinarian than to a doctor, because you know what my vet does? Anytime I'm on my 4th dog now, and anytime I go to the vet, no matter if it is a sore paw or whatever, they ask, what do you give the dog? What does the dog eat? They always ask that the first question. And that's what any medically trained person should do with anyone ending up anywhere in the healthcare system. How do you eat? Because it is so extremely important. What kind of fuel do you give your body? I mean, how in the world could you think that you can stay healthy if you feed your body chemical junk? It's impossible. You're going to be sick. So that's also, I had a wolf hybrid, one of the most beautiful animals you could think of, huge, with me from US. She was 2 when I moved over to Sweden, and she lived until she was 10 and a half. But anyway, you know, the veterinarian I had at that time said she should have biologically appropriate food. And that's a terminology I love. We should eat biologically appropriate food. I mean, look at the fat content. Pardon me?
Proper human diet.
Yeah, but I mean, we just have to look at the brain, the fatty acid in our brain.
I'm sorry, my cat just arrived from his yard visit,
okay.
So I just had to
let your cat in.
Him in.
That terminology, yeah. I loved it. Biologically appropriate food. I mean, listen to it. It say everything, right? So, you know, that's how I came about thinking about these things and started working. And also in 2012, I had a caseload that was absolutely killing me. Didn't have any colleagues to refer to, because I was the only one in Sweden working like this, and more clients and more clients, and I was exhausted. So I thought, okay, this is not going to work. I need colleagues. So that's why I started to develop my training for professionals, you know, the holistic medicine for addiction training, which is a 1-year online training where I teach holistic addiction medicine, which I'm alone about in the world of doing. And then, you know, that training has developed, you know, more and more things come on. Like I thought about when I read something, when you talk about pets, I don't know how much you know about oxytocin, which is one of the most incredible neurotransmitters in our body. It's a hormone and a neurotransmitter. It's involved in the insulin release, the vagus nerve, satiety, and relaxation and well-being. So, you know, if we eat junk food, you know, we don't get enough oxytocin. So one of the people and a friend of mine I have a beautiful faculty of people that teaches, and one of them, she's a professor and one of the world leading researchers on oxytocin, and she's written several books. Her website is in English too, but she started teaching about childbirth and breastfeeding, because that's how we thought about oxytocin in the old days. But today, there is a whole incredible picture of what oxytocin is important. And when we get massage, or we work in the garden, or we do some yoga or meditation or handcraft, or when we pet a dog or a cat, the fun thing is that you get release of oxytocin and the animal gets too. That's why hugging and petting your animals is so important part of recovery. I love that you mentioned that in your text to me before. I thought, oh, she knows. So oxytocin. So anyway, we have a beautiful workshop with, her name is Kerstin Nunes Moberg, and she's a retired professor right now, but she works with developing more about oxytocin. So, so there is one of many things that I have added in my faculty through the years. So this is just growing the holistic view. So I love working with holistic medicine for addiction.
That's wonderful.
So that's how it came about anyway. So now I think I'm doing the 10th or 11th training for professionals. And I also developed the diagnostic tool called Sugar. So I can actually do an interview, which takes about an hour and a half. And I can tell you if you have only harmful use, where we could use a moderation therapy, or if you're addicted to sugar flour and you have to be 100% abstain. So yeah, look at that. Oh, what a cutie. Oh, what a cutie.
To me, and now he's gonna find a good position to sit. Thank you so much for sharing this. This is a wonderful thing. My husband sometimes talks about it, and I think he should make a video about it for the Greeks, because it's extremely important detail.
Absolutely.
Approach.
Very important for recovery.
But please tell me more about this tool which you developed. This is extremely interesting. This
the sugar. Yeah, there is a man, a researcher in US called Norman Hoffman, and he developed a diagnostic tool from DSM-3. So we have now number 5, DSM-3, 4, and 5. That's a diagnostic manual, used mostly in US, but our international one from World Health Organization is called ICD-10, and now we're going to have ICD-11. The numbers are updated versions. So anyway, he made a tool for diagnosing alcohol, pill, and drug addiction. Because we know there is a big difference between harmful use and addiction. Addiction is a serious brain illness. Harmful use is more like emotional eating or drinking or party drinking, or you don't have a lot of coping skills, so you use drugs or you use alcohol or food. But addiction is a primary illness. It's not caused by anything, which people think. It's not. It's its own illness, and it's a brain illness. So anyway, it's very important to understand if you have harmful use or addiction, because totally different treatment methods, which the world doesn't understand, because there are so many professionals out there that try to help addicts, sugar addicts, with moderation therapy, and that is totally wrong. You're going to make them sicker, and you're going to make them feel lousy because they can't do it, and they feel they are bad when actually they get crazy advice. So anyway, it's very important to know that. And also the next step is to know, how does your addictive curve look? What are your consequences? Because even if it's the same illness, of course, we don't make the same treatment plan for everybody. There are some ingredients in the treatment plan that has to be the same for that particular illness. But then there's a lot of stuff in your life that needs to be addressed individually. So this sugar diagnostic tool, which I've developed, and today it's a net version. You do it on internet, like you go up on Zoom like this, and you see the questions, and I do the questions, and we together do it, explore how your addiction look. So it takes about an hour and a half, and then we find out everything about, how your particular situation is and how sick you are and and then we do your treatment plan. And then we have a follow-up about an hour and a half again, and you get your treatment plan, your follow-up plan.
Mhm.
So then that's how you start your recovery journey.
Mhm.
So every person that's suspect that they might have an addiction should actually be able to get that done, because then we know, and we know how to sort. Okay, you're a harmful user, you can go there, and you're an addict, you need this help. So that's very important. And then, the other 1 year online training is where I teach people how to treat. How do you treat sugar food addiction? How do you look for other outlets? If there's alcohol, maybe pills, gambling, any other outlets. And also we know today, I don't use the word eating disorder, never ever, because at least in Sweden, eating disorder is thought of being a symptom of some psychological problem. But, sugar addicts, they act as anorectics. They restrict, they binge, they purge, they overeat, and they have volume addiction. So if you're an addict and you use these things, they are ways for you to try to compensate for the insane craving and trying to control your addiction, which is impossible. So then you can develop, what we call process addictions, like starving and dieting is a process addiction. Binging and throwing up, bulimia, is a process addiction. Volume eating is a process addiction. So if you treat somebody, you have to treat these process addictions too. You can't just take away the drug and start treating. Mm-hmm. So you have to work with them the same as you work with taking away the drug. So, but I don't call them eating disorders. I call them process addictions. But it's very important to see that sugar food addicts have these behaviors. So it's very important to know, is it a real eating disorder? Go to the psychologist, psychiatrist. Mm-hmm. If it is addiction and compensating behaviors, we treat the addiction.
This is wonderful. This I didn't expect so much great pearls of knowledge. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay. So in my previous interview with Dr. Jen Anwind, she mentioned that you will be their guest at the conference in May, where you will have something like a course, but it's going to be advanced. Actually, it's going to be very, let's call it speed course, 4 days. Am I right? And who can attend? Is this for professionals or for the addicts?
It's for the addict. I have done this since 1996, and you think, well, 4 days, is that going to help that lifelong chronic illness? Of course, it's not a magic bullet, but I have so much experience with thousands of clients. I know that 4-day intensive together in a group with the program I do, that's when you open the door and step into the room. And when in the room, you get to look at all the tools and you start trying some tools. And then, of course, there is a long follow-up. It's a 6 months follow-up included in that 4-day intensive. And during that 6 months follow-up, that's when, your individual plan gets more and more fine-tuned, so that after 6 months, you continue to do other groups and other treatments and help. Because it takes 2 years to heal your brain from an addiction. So the first 2 years, it is very important that you are in some kind of a program for healing your brain. So you restore your mental horsepower. And once you restore your mental horsepower, you are a free human being to go and do what you need to do. That could be therapy, it could be practicing something, it could be all kinds of things. So it's not the same for everybody. But as long as you are drained on energy, you have what I call energy leak on a cellular level from the addiction, and your brain is all crazy, warbled, not really connected, you're not in charge of your life. I mean, you are feeling tired, foggy brain, you have metabolic dysfunction, you have a broken microbiome, your thyroid is operating low, your adrenals is operating low, you have a lot of inflammations, pain in your body, and we could go on and on. So you have to take care of that first. Then you work on the more deeper emotional part. Here is the problem today. A lot of professionals start working on thoughts and feelings early with addicts. That's not going to work. You know why? The drug has caused false feelings and false negative thinking. If you start analyzing that, you can entrench the negativity and feel more and more miserable. So I used to say, you don't drive a car on the wrong fuel. You have to switch fuel first, clean up the car, and then you drive. I call this putting the horse in front of the wagon instead of the opposite.
Very interesting comparison. Yeah, there are 1 million subjects that I would like to expand this conversation to, but let's stay to the point. Who can join? Is it still open?
Okay, anyone. The training is mainly made for people with a problem.
Okay.
Anyone they think they have a problem that wants some professional help should join us on the 4-day intensive in May in Bristol. There's information on my website. And then anyone that wants to train with me to see what I'm doing and learn this method and this way of thinking, how to start healing them, could join as a trainee. So it's actually for both. But if you're a trainee, I want you also to be honest and participate, not sit like a statue and not say a word. I want you to ask questions and be part of the group, throw yourself in. So everybody has to participate. Yeah. That's how I work. That's how I work.
Well, since you covered it, how is it to work with you? People can work with you online, which is really beautiful because I'm so inspired now just talking to you. I can imagine that it's really relaxing, and it's a way of learning about yourself and about the program.
I teach. I don't treat. I teach. I give people tools. I give people knowledge and tools. Hope. Knowledge gives hope, and hope gives willingness, and willingness gives action. So you're ready to change. But I want to point out, I don't take any clients anymore. Okay. No. So I have no time to work with clients. Only in group, like the 4-day intensive. That's the type of treatment I do, not one-on-one or something. Okay. But anyone can email me and ask for help, and I promise to pair them up with people I've trained, because I have a list of people that I've trained. So just tell me a little bit about yourself, where you live, and I'm going to hook you up with one of my skilled counselors.
So this is interesting. You published a couple of books. We are waiting for one of them to be translated in English.
I'm working on it. Yes.
Wonderful. These are recipe books.
Well, no, 3 books. I did my first book about sugar addiction in 2004, when people couldn't even spell the word addiction. And then I updated that pretty much in 2010, and the latest update came 2016, and that's the one I'm translating and updating. And then I've done 2 cookbooks, and they are based on old, normal, traditional food in Sweden, but there is no bread, potato, rice, there is no carbs in there, no desserts, not one dessert. Because addicted people cannot eat keto bread and keto desserts because they use it as substitutes and they trigger. So they get craving and trigger on it. So we don't eat that kind of stuff. It's not going to work on our brain.
I have an important question here. So a sugar as a molecule is causing also physical addiction. But does the taste of sweetness, such as stevia or monk fruit or those natural sweeteners, which also have exactly the same effect on the brain, probably because it's a signal of a sweet taste,
Yes.
without raising up the insulin.
And insulin release, and an insulin release from the sweet taste and the look of stuff. That's called cue-induced craving. You see chocolate, your body get prepared. So you start putting out insulin by seeing it, smelling it.
My husband has a theory that many of his sugar addicts who keep clients who are sugar addicts keep pointing, I don't want pasta, I don't the same like you, I just want chocolate. He says that this could also be nutritional deficiencies in some vital minerals which are present in cacao. And sometimes these people say, oh, I just want dark chocolate. I don't want sweet chocolate, I want dark chocolate. Sometimes it's really their general nutrition is so bad that they're depleted of basic minerals. They don't eat meat almost never. Sometimes they eat fish. Even this is, we can discuss about this, but usually they're coming from the background of vegetarian and vegan.
I know.
Dieting. So could this thing be related? First, fix your general. I'm not talking about addicts, but the persons that you mentioned. Help me here. Those who
the harmful users. Yeah. It's you could work with those kind of topics that your husband talks about with harmful users. If one has developed an addiction, which happens very early, usually 4 or 5 years of age, you can never go back and even eat cocoa powder. Because you have to remember, in cocoa, there is a psychoactive substance called anandamide, which is acting like a cannabis-like product, so it's more than the sugar and everything. So, and of course, every addict do have nutritional deficiencies due to the way they're eating. But some people were hoping that if I fix my nutritional deficiencies, maybe I can eat chocolate. If it's an addict, no, sorry, it's not going to work. Because that's a reward pathway, dopamine and other neurotransmitter problem that has developed. So that's too late. So it doesn't matter how much nutrition you pump on them, they're going to eat addictively if they go back to chocolate in any way, shape or form, dark or light or whatever. So that's for addicts, that doesn't work. The same with bread, like keto bread and seed crackers and all that. They trigger on that too. So they're going to start overeating. So we have seen that through all the thousands of people we have treated through the years, that it doesn't work.
Rarely anybody in the low carb universe talks about this.
I know.
We can see a lot of people escaping to doing it wrong. They are changing old habits, but just excluding wheat flour and sweetener, but still using all the other ingredients, which are
dark chocolate and alcohol. Yeah. And if you're an addict, that's going to explode in you sooner or later, because you only have one reward center. So, any psychoactive drug you're using is going to say, boom. So if you drink alcohol, you get craving on chocolate. And if you eat chocolate, you get craving on alcohol and so forth. That's how it works.
Exactly. So what about your diet? When did you discover low carb? And what do you do now? I think you mentioned that sometimes you're also doing carnivore. I'm usually doing carnivore.
I love carnivore.
For me,
I love carnivore.
The summer, perfect.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm a carnivore keto. That's the best way to describe it.
There's an expression, keto war.
No, keto war, yeah. That's a good one. I started low carb 2005. And in the beginning, of course, as an addict, I loved whipped cream and cheese and all that. So I was eating way too much of that. And for food addicts, that's a dangerous area because we trigger on that. So a lot of people will not curb cravings or stop having the addictive tendencies if they have whipped cream and cheese and sour cream and yogurt and all that. Butter and ghee is okay, but not other dairy products. We have found that out. So about 70% of our clients are very sensitive to dairy products. I eat, when it comes to fat, I eat butter, ghee, MCT oil. I love MCT oil. Coconut oil, sometimes a little bit of avocado oil, well, those are the fats. Olive oil, olives. I
I
love
was
that.
waiting.
I love that.
I was waiting.
Yeah. Oh God, I love olive oil and olives. But anyway, so I eat that. I eat goat and sheep cheese. That works much better. And cows. But I eat that cheesecake my sister does, not often, but I do eat it. And then I have a little bit of whipped cream, maybe 3 times a year, but I couldn't eat it a lot because then I get craving. Then I eat mostly meat, any kind of meat, red meat. I eat pork. I love pork, bacon, that kind of thing.
Omega-6, be careful there.
I know, but I love pork. So I eat bacon.
In the tradition, you understand?
Yeah, it's my tradition. Yeah. And then lamb and wild.
Now
like
we're
moose
on the
meat.
good side of the,
Yeah.
the omegas.
And moose meat, if I get moose meat, which I do occasionally here in Sweden, from a hunter. I eat a lot of fish, not.
There is the compensation. If you eat a lot of fish, then you compensate for the omega-3.
I know. But I don't eat I eat the wild caught fish, not the one that they grow in Norway. I don't know what you call that.
Important detail. Many people are buying, well, it's affordable, it's easy to obtain in the supermarket, but if
I know.
If it's farmed, it's almost...
Oh, farm, that's the word I was looking for. I don't eat farmed fish. I eat wild caught fish.
Exactly.
And like here we have a big lake. I get a fish called sik. I don't know the English name, but perch. So we eat that, and rainbow, wild caught salmon. I have friends that fish out at sea that I get from, and other wild caught fish. I eat that. I can eat some seafood, I'm so lucky. I have a company here in Sweden. I order sardines and mackerel and that in olive oil, because the ones you buy in the supermarket is in sunflower oil, which is yuck.
Again,
yeah.
For us here, we are having fresh fish from the sea. Today we had fish. Every Friday and Tuesday they bring it from the Adriatic coast, which is 1 hour driving from us.
Oh yeah.
So
lucky.
Mackerel every Friday, and
I love mackerel.
Sometimes I stop myself because I keep saying to people, nothing can compare to fresh fish. Go for fresh fish. But then I understand not everywhere in the world fresh fish is available.
That's true. That's true.
The second best is frozen, especially if the company is freezing the fish immediately at the boat.
Right away. Yes, I know. Fresh frozen, as we call it.
And then healthy food is so diminished in today's.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
To work with people.
I have 2 stores here where I can buy fresh fish. So I'm very happy and lucky for that. And I buy very good meat from my sister, eggs, that type of thing. And then, of course, I eat a lot of egg.
How many per sitting? How many?
Pardon me?
How many eggs would you eat, for example, in an omelette?
In a week, I at least I eat 1 every morning.
Okay.
I have Aggmjolk in my bulletproof. And then I do an omelette on the egg white. And then usually I have maybe 2, sometimes 4 a day. And not every day, because I eat meat and fish and all that too, But I do eat, I haven't never counted, but I eat a lot of eggs. And I eat eggs every day.
There's a theory that even if you're going to eat 10 per day, nothing bad will happen. Eggs have all the nutrients. Eggs contain all the nutrients that a person needs.
All the amino acids. All the amino acids you need.
But there are even, there's this protein score, which is compared to the proteins in an egg. And when you are seeing if a food is quality, provides quality protein, it has to be similar to an egg, the simple protein of egg white. So even science is telling us that this primary nutrient, the name, it says protein, in Greek protos means the first nutrient. And women, as I spoke with Dr. Wrigley, don't eat enough of protein. Now
I know.
You mentioned you eat quite enough. You eat
yeah.
a healthy amount of protein, and you live an active life. You are going for walks. Do you exercise?
Well, if you call stretching, swimming in the summer, bicycle, I don't go to the gym, but I'm very active during the day. You know, I do dog walks, I house clean, I garden. I have a garden, so I dig and do a lot of that stuff. I don't sit on my butt a lot. I'm sitting here now with you for a while. But otherwise, if I have to work at the desk, I sit probably 30 minutes and then I go up and stretch and do something.
So we just covered almost everything what I had written down. But talking to you gives me so many more questions, gives me so many, well, it gives me inspiration. This is why I invited you, because I want inspiring women who can talk to ladies, give them their example, but also example of people who had success and they helped them. So do you have a small story of a person who, or if it's a lady, it would be even better, who had a great success? And also, I love when you mentioned it takes 2 years. Does it really take 2 years for everybody, or somebody has to go for a longer period on this addiction battle?
It is a very serious brain illness. It's very difficult. It's very confusing to the person being having it, him or herself, because, you know, it has so many weird behaviors in all areas of life, as I told you about the chair. So that's important to know. Of course, nobody heals in the same time. And also, it's like when we get older, some people, their hair get gray first and then their eyesight go, or something, you know, joints or whatever. We don't age synchronically like everybody. There's no pattern. Okay, it's the same with recovery. It's important to understand, don't compare yourself to somebody, because you might think, oh, look at her, she's slimmer, she looks healthier than me, but you could be healthier on the inside. She could still have some metabolic discrepancy on the inside yet. So you don't know that. So you should be very careful to not compare yourself. But usually we say at least 18 to 24 months before your brain has rewired properly. Remember one thing, this drug, the exposure is extremely early. It could be as formula, you know. So, and think about it, a baby and a child and a teenager's brain is not developed yet naturally. Your prefrontal cortex is not wired. The only part of the brain that is ready wired when you're born is the reptilian brain, the survival brain. The rest has to be developed through, you know, how the people care for you, what you eat, the environment you live in. There are so many variables. So I think, you know, it's very important to be very kind to yourself. That's why I said, live softly. Don't rush it. Compare to only yourself. You know, you have your own journey to make. And the beautiful thing is that I believe in self-help groups. I believe in support. I called my illness the red dog, the nasty red dog that is seductive and, you know, try to manipulate me, and, oh, Bitten, you've been a good girl. Maybe we should have some chocolate today. You know, that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's very bad. It's very
like
bad.
a small
So
devil living on your shoulder.
yeah. I call it red dog. And then I have a big blue healthy dog. But sometimes, you know, the red dog takes over. I'm tired or, you know, whatever. So anyway, I have certain tools to deal with my red dog. First of all, I make a commitment in the morning. So I'm saying to myself, the first thing I say in the morning, okay, no matter what happens today, you know, I'm going to stick to my healthy food plan, because nothing can be solved by eating a chemical shitstorm. Okay. Excuse my French. So that's my commitment in the morning. And then if my red dog starts whispering in my ear, you know, I don't get panic and fight it. You know, I just say, oh, hi, are you visiting today? And I said, okay, that sounds like a good idea, but you know what? We're not going to do that today. Maybe tomorrow, but not today. So it's only taking it one day at a time. And another favorite tool is, let's say that you and I are both addicts and we are in a support group. I call you up and say, Roberta, I want to tell on my red dog to you, gossip about it. You know what my red dog tells me?
Wonderful.
It tells me that I should this and that and so forth. And when I do that, my red dog loses power. When I gossip on it, do you understand what I mean?
Totally.
Because it's putting it out in the open. I don't feel, oh, I'm so ashamed that my red dog tells me to eat this. No, 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 no. I immediately see it as the enemy inside of me, and I tell somebody about it. And then we can laugh about it. And she can say, you might say, oh, you know what my red dog said, blah, 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 blah. And this is very powerful tools,
This is extremely similar. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Extremely similar to a approach I took when I was in my 20s during the university. I had a couple of years struggling with panic attacks. And then I treated them as a person. They were a person. And each panic attack had to hear from me. I always had a watch. And I would say, listen, you can't last longer than 10 minutes. So go ahead, come. And
exactly. Good. I love that.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed it, and I know that my viewers will enjoy it. Could you please just let us know when your book is published in English? It's going to be available through your website, or how women?
Well, I don't know yet, because it's now at the agent's desk. They made the decision how it's going to go about and all that. So I'm waiting to hear from them, and as soon as I know, I will put that on my website. I also want to tell people that, listen, we do have a large closed self-help group on Facebook called Sugar Bomb in Your Brain. There is
Bomb in Your Brain. We're going to write it down, right? So, so the ladies can join. And
yes, 9,800
not only ladies, everybody, sugar addicts. But since we are sugarless Amazons, we are first prioritizing our
we only have one rule. You're not allowed to post pictures of food because that triggers people. So you cannot post any pictures. So you have to talk about, you have to say the drug or sweets when you talk about the drug. So we know that today.
Wonderful.
Isn't it amazing?
It is. It's overwhelming. I've learned so much from you today. Thank you 1 million times. I really and honestly hope that you will find some time to join us again. And
sure.
I hope you're gonna check some of the Greek Goes Keto posts. I'm gonna share them with you. And we're gonna be paying more attention to sugar addiction now.
Good.
Some things which I learned from you about the addicts and those harmful users. So this is wonderful. Thank you. And I wish you a pleasant day. What's the weather in Sweden today? In your area?
It's dusk. It's dusk. It's getting dark soon. Yeah. Oh,
bright sunny day here.
We're lighting up the lights in the windows and in the house now. So it's getting dark very soon here now. It's been a beautiful day with blue sky and sunshine. So it's going to be a starlight evening, and I love watching the stars. I'm a space geek. I love space research.
I'm a space geek to the bone.
My hero is Professor Brian Cox, the astrophysicist. And if you want to be in awe of humanity and life and how to preserve Earth and, the wonders of the universe, watch his series, The Wonders of the Universe, on the BBC. The way he talks, it's so spiritual and loving and insightful about the universe and galaxies and gravity and time. And I love his voice. So Professor Brian Cox. That's one of the things I tell my clients to start watching, because if you watch that, you forget about the trifle little problems here down on Earth.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing this. It was a pleasure talking to you. Wish you all the best and hope to talk to you soon.
Absolutely.